What we're saying is there are other modalities that can work and that can be effective. And what we needed was something outside of what we had always known. We had always just said, go to the doctor. But the doctor was always the same. It was, I'd go there, they would spend 20 minutes with me, and I would walk away with the prescription. But the point was, I was like, I didn't want to do the prescription. That was the point. I wanted to get well.
You wanted the root cause, right? And I do believe, to piggyback off of what you're saying, I believe it's an integrated approach.
It's actually, everybody thinks it costs more to be healthy. But let me tell you, get sick. And then you'll see really how much it costs.
And what is dis-ease? It's dis-ease.
The body not being at ease.
At ease. And that's emotional, that's mental, that's food, sleep, water. So that's all controlled by us.
Or if you are saying, okay, I do have a disease, how can you help me to reverse these things? And we start to work on a plan to reverse these things.
I love that term, because that's a hopeful term.
But the problem we have is people don't know what to do because we've been so programmed into going, if my pinky nail hurts, I must have pinky nail disease, so I need a pinky nail pill. And so we've been just indoctrinated in treating what you complain about, not why it's happening, what's the root cause. And that understanding of how it all works, and that's one of the problems I think that we have is there's an ologist for everything.
Right.
A gastroenterologist, a dermatologist,
cutting the body up, dissecting the entire body.
And I'm pretty sure they ain't calling each other going, hey, I saw this. But what we do is we look at the whole body, right? And I treat Dale completely different than I treat David, but you both could complain of the same thing because the why is different. And that's the key behind it, is identifying that why.
Your body's not broken, it's waiting for you to listen. So when it's crying out to you, it's trying to say, work with me and we'll do it. So that's really what you're saying.
That's what a symptom is.
Yes,
a symptom is, it's cry.
It's crying out to you.
A pain is your sign going, hey, something's not right. But those are just symptoms. Pain is another symptom. And so what those things show up for is to go, hey, something's not working the way it's supposed to. So you got a couple different ways of treating it. You can put, black tape over your check engine light, or you can go figure
I did that one time, and my transmission blew.
That's how that works.
I can't even believe that.
The one thing I learned from you, Mary, is treating the root of the cause. I mean,
let's get back to that person who's sitting out there going, okay, this is all great, I get it. Help me, I feel stuck. Where do I start? Welcome to Real Talk Hilton Head with David and Dale Cross, the real estate lifestyle podcast of Coastal Carolina.
Join us as we share stories from our community, insight into the local lifestyle, and the real scoop on real estate.
From market trends to home design, we dive deep into what it means to live and thrive here.
Discover the state of mind and philosophy of the Lowcountry that enriches life through personal growth, health and wellness, and human connection.
Whether you're a local or thinking of becoming one, we're here to guide you through the ins and outs of living this coastal escape.
Tune in, relax, and enjoy the conversation with Real Talk Hilton Head,
the podcast of Coastal Carolina.
This episode is brought to you by the David Dale team, powered by eXp Realty in Hilton Head.
Imagine a life where your body naturally sheds weight, inflammation melts away, and energy flows freely, and chronic pain disappears, all without drugs, without extreme diets, and without gimmicks.
Today we're diving into a revolutionary approach to health that might just change everything you thought you knew about your body's potential. Our guests, Dr. Bradley Morris and Dr. Mary Oladoo, are pioneers in the holistic wellness. They've helped countless Lowcountry residents, including David and myself, rediscover vitality and balance.
So what if true wellness wasn't about restriction, but about unlocking the natural intelligence of your body? So stick with us today because we're going to go deep. And if you're really interested in the weight loss portion, we're about an hour into the show before we get to it. But I promise you, if you stick around, you're going to learn so much.
Enjoy the show. Welcome to Real Talk. This is two of my favorite people on the whole island. You guys have impacted our lives in ways that I can't even begin to tell you, Dr. Mary Odom and Dr. Bradley Morris. Dr. Mary started us on our holistic journey, and Dr. Bradley, both of you, I tell people at least once a week about both of you. Dr. Bradley helped me lose about 45 pounds. And that, for you, I owe you that. And you cleaned our bodies.
Our family's bodies,
Our
actually.
family's bodies. So we're so excited to have you guys. You've really touched us. And we're excited to share what you do with people.
Thank
Because
you
it's
for having
really life impacting. So
I just want to correct that. Like, they should be like top 3 because, like, aren't I in the top?
sorry.
That part on
Yes.
Valentine's
It's the
Day.
David Dale team, but not David Dale, Bradley, and Mary. Sorry. Sorry. A little insecure.
I think you thought that went without saying.
Exactly.
Oh,
We're one.
way to cover.
Thank you.
Unstated.
I like, yeah. So
Yes.
no, absolutely,
you.
and it's funny because not only have they impacted you, but vicariously, at least you, Dr. Bradley Morris. We call you Dr. Bradley, Dr. Mary.
Fine.
I watched Dale lose all this weight, and I was like, "What the what?" And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she showed me, and I lost 25 pounds. You know, just watching her.
Yes.
I'm just
Yep.
kidding. So
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to start there. Actually, I really want to talk about that. And one of the things, the key themes and takeaway for me was the body's natural intelligence. Like we want to dive on that because I think a lot of us underestimate what this thing, what we've been given and the gift and
the power.
and the
The
power
power within it.
that's there.
Yeah.
And I think you said something about one time, you just need to learn to listen. So we're going to get to that. And then also inflammation, like that's the real enemy in the end that we're really talking about here. And then how weight loss is a side effect of balance and not deprivation. So we're going to give you the floor, Dr. Morris, and just talk to us about that whole concept. And
Yeah.
All right.
Wait. Before
Okay.
you say anything, I want to say
Yeah.
cleaning up the system to prepare her for this
Yes.
is what we did. And I referred you to this guy.
1,000%. So it really
That's how we
starts with
connect.
Dr.
That's how
Mary.
y'all came together.
Oh, so, well,
Yes.
Because
All
I
right.
started
That's
with
right.
your program just to do
She
this.
did.
So-
She cleaned me up
All right,
and
so-
you.
She found me.
we're going to start in one, but we really should start in the other. But it's a podcast. Forgive us.
It's all great. I just want to make sure we connect the dots.
No,
and why that's
1,000%.
important
It
as you
is.
talk about
Yes.
weight loss, because you start
Yeah.
with that metabolic balance and clean up.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's it. That's the whole,
1,000%.
and it's holistic.
So why
It
don't
is.
we do?
That's the theme.
I'm glad that you said that.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Bradley.
We can shift gears.
We're going to shift because let's start with our journey with you guys because we came to you, Dr. Mary. We met you at a function and we came and sat on your couch, which I've done many, many times. And explain to people what you do because, like you said, we had to clean up our bodies. We thought that we were doing really well. I mean, we're very healthy people. You know, we thought we were doing well, but when you did the AO scan at the time,
Can I chime in on that too? Because what was going on was, I think I was the first one, right, that came to see you.
yes, I made
You
the appointment.
sent-
For
Made the
you.
appointment.
Yes.
And the reason was because I wasn't getting some of the things I was needing medically
Yes.
from traditional medicine. And this is, I want to make it clear, we're not anti doctors or medicine. What we're saying is there are other modalities that can work and that can be effective. And what we needed was something outside of what we had always known. We had always just said, go to the doctor. But the doctor was always the same. It was, I'd go there, they would spend 20 minutes with me, and I would walk away with the prescription.
20?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever.
That's generous, huh?
But the point was,
20?
I was like, I didn't want to do the prescription.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
point. I
Yeah.
wanted to
Right.
get well. So
Yes.
that's where I wanted. Let's start there.
Yes.
So with
Sorry,
that.
Dr. Bradley.
Yeah. So we'll shift.
Yeah.
Well, I would say you wanted the root cause, right? And I do believe to piggyback off of what you're saying, I believe it's an integrated approach to medicine. I think I started as a nurse postpartum many years ago, and I always felt like, why isn't there a platform where we're all working together?
Yeah.
And then because of my background in the military, I got to travel the world. And when I experienced Europe, and how they actually supported this whole well care system.
Yeah.
Their whole mantra, if you will, is basically preventive measures, preventive care.
Correct.
Because grandma said, right? Pound of cure versus ounce of a prevention. So they encourage and they keep the cost of going to spas and all these modalities that cost us hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do the cryotherapy and all these therapies, and we're kind of piecemealing it. They have it all integrated, and you spend a whole day and you literally go from one modality to the other for the sake of your wellness care. And then at the end of the day, they're asking for as little at the time, €35, which was about
cheap like that.
$40.
Is it? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
But you got to remember that in Europe, it's different medicine than the States.
Yes, it is.
In Europe, if you get sick, they pay for it.
Yeah.
In America, if you get sick, you pay for it.
That's right.
And so that's the biggest difference that I've saw with even the foods. So a lot of foods that are allowed here in the States, and you're going to start hearing more and more about that with RFK getting into that.
Yeah.
That same food's not allowed. And they were talking about Fruit Loops, a childhood favorite of mine. And it's a completely different recipe in Canada than it is here.
Because
I've heard
a lot of the chemicals are banned over there because they are not good for you.
Yeah, they're
at all.
carcinogenic.
Are you thinking about making a move to the Low Country?
Whether you're searching for the perfect home or you're exploring vibrant communities on the coast or dreaming of a new lifestyle, we're here to help.
Contact the David Dale team today and let's make your dream a reality.
And it's actually, everybody thinks it costs more to be healthy.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, get sick.
Yeah.
And then you'll see really how much it costs. So we do pay more now to do those types of modalities. And, organic grass-fed food is going to cost more today. But as we keep aging, we're saving a ton of money.
And that's what that's our big philosophy. David and I have always said, we'll spend the money now on the good food, the alkaline water, the modalities to stay healthy, because the price of
Prevention.
Exactly, that's prevention. But what it costs when you get sick, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to not live this life when I get older. So I'd rather pay for it now and enjoy life for a longer period of time.
Oh, yeah. Don't go in the system and have to do, sorry to cut you off, but don't go in the system and have a one day where you need 5 tests. You can go out owing $35,000 for that one day.
Correct.
As opposed to, okay, we were laughing the other day. If I had to live in this lifestyle sick all the time, I was just like, Jesus, take me today.
Take me.
Well, and
I'm
that's
gone.
exactly what we're talking about, the lifestyle here in Hilton Head. Like, why would you not be healthy, want to live here and live this lifestyle? It all goes hand in hand, really.
Well, can we break it down, though? Because I feel like it's actually a very simple concept, very simple process. Wouldn't you agree? That for people, because I think what we want to give is hope and answers, that it's going to take some changes, and I think you hit it on the head. It's changes in mindset. It's changes in understanding, right? Whatever you understand, you
and
stand
what's
under.
available.
Well,
It's
that's
the
I think the understanding is the big thing, because we've kind of all been programmed.
Right. And I think I want to touch base on that, because I think I follow where you're at, and I think what you were trying to say in a very subtle way, in a gentle way, and in a way that doesn't rub people the wrong way, which is, look, there are factors at play, which is we live in a sick care that is based on profit.
Yeah.
And whenever you have profit involved, you have things involved that always deal with our best interest, right?
Exactly.
So that means then we have to take our best interest at hand, and it may cost us, but it's going to actually benefit us in the end. So let's kind of dive into that on the holistic side, because one of the things I appreciate about you is it's a different understanding. It's also spiritual in a way, not getting religious, but that you're a whole person. So there's an approach to that. And then it's decisions. You have choices.
Exactly.
You decide what goes in. And what is dis-ease? It's dis-ease.
The body not being at ease.
At ease. And that's emotional, that's mental, that's food, sleep, water. So that's all controlled by us in the end. So can we just dive there? Because I really want to leave the audience and the listener with something that they can go, how can I today make a change that's going to start helping me.
Absolutely.
And
So
that's to both of you, because I know you're just as passionate as we are about it.
and so I would say a lot of people, first of all, you got to understand who we are, right? And I recently did a podcast myself, and I explained what chiropractic care does for your life, the full on, right, of it does for your well care. For people who just don't get it, I always say, well, you know what a chiropractor is, right? You know, chiropractors. Yes, I said, well, we go to school with chiropractors, right? Naturopaths, the chiropractors are trying to keep you healthy, and they go through the spine. We go through the gut, right? But the end state is trying to help you to understand how to balance mind, body, and spirit. And understanding that basis, really at the end of the day, I think good health is being able to take in substances, whether it comes from the sun, whether it comes from what we put in our mouth, drink, right? To bring energy to the body for mobility, right? And for actionability, right? But what drains that energy, right, is the emotional state that causes toxicity in the body, causes the body to not be alkaline, but also not getting the proper food. And then how quickly can we convert that energy to toxins and get rid of the toxins? The problem happens when the conversion doesn't happen. And because people drink and they eat a lot of exposed things that are metals in the body, all sorts of metals that come from our water, comes from our environment of breathing,
Pesticides.
comes from the foods that are sprayed. And these metals block the body's ability to send messaging to the nerves so that we can move and send energy. So teaching people who we are, what we're made of is number one. Number two, I think the change comes with people making a different decision, right? I've always done this thing over and over, gone to healthcare folks, right? Medical people, where I came from, right? But I think it should be bottom up and not top down. So the first person you go to is your primary care. Then if they don't find something, because it has to hit a certain baseline to register even that you got a problem, and then we go into action when you have a problem, as opposed to starting with people like us, and especially a naturopath, because if you come to me, I'm going to do the same types of assessments, but my baseline is different. So when I see that you have parasites, when I see you have metals, when I see that you have any kind of toxicities, whether they are, natural, we talked about these natural viruses versus viruses that may not be natural, right, to the body. But either, it doesn't matter. I'm going to help you to detox or get rid of those toxicities before they turn into dis-ease in the body. So that is the first choice, I think, is doing like they do in Europe. Start at the bottom. Go see a homeopathic doctor, and I happen to be both. I told him this morning at another meeting, I said, yes, if somebody's looking for a naturopath or a homeopathic doctor, send them my way. I was like, now, most people think it's the same. It's not. They're different, but I'm both, right? So I can help you whether you're looking for, that gentle approach for your children, your pets, yourself, or if you are saying, okay, I do have a disease. How can you help me to reverse these things? And we start to work on a plan to reverse these things.
I love that term, because that's a hopeful term, reverse. And that's, I think, would be important for people to understand. Let's talk about this thing that we've been giving and its power to reverse, to heal, to recover.
Well, that's where you came up with the intelligence. So to make it really simple is if you get a cut, it bleeds, that washes out the wound. It forms a scab, and then you got skin. Those same things are happening on the inside of you, and that's the reversal, right? But if you have a knife that keeps cutting you, that wound's never going to heal. And that's the problem that we have with the food. And it's really not just the food, it's the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. And then there's so much information out there that, people can get on Google and you can find 5 different opinions and which one of those are actually accurate. I was a chiropractor that I just did neck pain, back pain, and headaches, but I ran into a little girl that I couldn't figure out. And this is 25 years ago. And that's when I got into the functional medicine side of it, going, all right, really, how's this body work? Because in chiropractic, we've always believed the body will heal itself.
Right.
And it does.
It does.
I can cut your
Only
skin.
the body can heal itself, right?
Only.
Right.
And so if that could happen on the outside, it happens on the inside. But the problem that we have is people don't know what to do because we've been so programmed into going, if my pinky nail hurts, I must have pinky nail disease, so I need a pinky nail pill. And nobody asks.
Can
Right.
I ask you, is there really a pinky nail disease pill?
That is a Bradism.
Okay, because I want to make sure, because we are not advertising any pinky nail.
No,
No.
that is a
Make sure.
He does
Bradism.
not sell pinky
I
nails.
don't say pinky nail
To the
pill.
point where people, when they're doing herbs, they're like, what does this do
Yeah,
to this
yeah.
one thing? I'm like,
and
no,
that's-
it's all
And
your
actually,
body.
real quick, if you've got pinky nail problems, put something in the comment section,
Yeah.
and Dr. Bradley will reach out
I'll
to you.
take care of
That's a Dr. Bradley
Most of the
question.
time, they smashed it in the door.
Or they put it in places
It
that
doesn't belong. That's right. But my point about it is we go to doctors and we complain about something.
Yeah.
And their algorithms are 50 and 60 years old and they haven't changed, but everything else has,
Yeah.
especially our food.
Yeah.
And so we've been just indoctrinated in treating what you complain about, not
So it's the
why it's
Band-Aid.
happening, what's the root cause.
Yeah.
And that's where the functional medicine, this poor girl, she was only 13 years old who had chronic migraines.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I figured out that she was allergic to partially hydrogenated oil.
Isn't that something?
Which is in everything.
Everything. And she
Like
loves,
everything.
That
she
part.
loves salads and
Yeah.
ranch, which is full of that.
So
And-
how did you figure that out? Can I just dive a little deeper?
Yeah, so
into that?
I've been in neurology for years before that, and I'm like, all right, they've done every test to her, so it's got to be something neurologic. I test her, she's normal. And I actually was going to another class in neurology and talking to a friend of mine. He's like, have you ever heard functional medicine? 25 years ago, the answer is no.
No, yeah.
I mean, not even today, not a ton
Just
of people.
25 years ago is 2000. It's
Yeah.
not like the dark ages.
Yeah, but that was.
I
and
know, it's so sad to think about that.
I looked at him, I'm like, no idea what you're talking about. And that's when I started studying it, and it was really a process of elimination.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we do a lot of different testing. So it could be blood, urine, saliva, hair, stool, right? It just depends on what's going on. And you start looking at things and going, all right, here's a breakdown in the system. We can see that,
Yeah.
but why is it happening?
Right.
And so we did an elimination diet,
Okay.
and we started adding things back in.
That diet.
And they had the reaction.
And I'm waiting, and sure enough, she gets a headache. And she's like, I ate just like you told me.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did you eat? Well, I had Kentucky Fried Chicken. Then by the
Bam.
time out came up,
Yeah.
and I'm like, the Colonel's been frying his birds in partially hydrogenated oil
Right.
for years.
For a long time.
And it was, she had chronic migraines. And, really,
Wow.
I even thought, I'm like, this little girl doesn't want to go to school. Because you can't, a migraine, anybody can have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was a straight A student. So I'm like, that ain't it. And so that's when I was just like, what is wrong? And as a chiropractor, I'm going, at first I thought it was her neck because she lost curvature in her neck, but I put a curve back. Still have
Put
migraines.
mine back. You gotta put mine back. Right.
You got to show up.
Oh,
Whoa.
shots fired.
We'll
Okay.
edit that out.
Look, doctors are
She knows where I'm located.
That's the first thing they need to know. That's the first lesson. Doctors are
She
not
has my
hurting.
phone number and my address.
But to look, in my defense, who went virtual first?
I did. But I'm still live.
I got it. Restore, right?
Yep. You can come to my house. I'm across the street.
Well, I might need to go tonight, so just tell your wife. If I have to put me in the basement.
The table's
can't
in
make
my
it back
office.
home.
We're good.
Are you thinking of selling your home?
With our exclusive Elevate package, we combine over 50 years of experience, cutting-edge data analytics, our unique marketing strategies, and our extensive network to help your home rise above the rest.
While maximizing your sales price and minimizing the time on the market.
So contact the David Dale team today to learn more.
But that's what in functional medicine when we're looking at, the reference ranges that people have are so big and broad
Yeah.
that you can't see what's coming. And so I work with two sets of numbers. And I think it's important because, I can tell people anything I want and people are going to trust you more because you are a doctor, maybe not a chiropractor.
Not a naturopath.
Nah,
They've never even heard of me.
They've never heard of you.
And that's an interesting point, though, because I think, and that's an interesting point for people, is we have been trained to trust only certain doctors, but
Pharmaceutical doctors.
and I hate to say this, but if I'm correct, I've heard that medical doctors only spend very limited time on nutritional side of
not
medicine.
really taught about that.
They're not
They
even
have
taught.
a fraction of nutrition. I have friends that are medical doctors, and they're like, Brad, we have no hours in medicine, but we got a ton in toxicology. I have 2 hours in toxicology in my entire studies.
Wow.
And I
And
got
toxicology
thousands.
is
drugs.
more drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have thousands of hours on the human body, the physiology of how it works. And then I took it further and studied neurology and functional medicine. And that understanding of how it all works, and that's one of the problems I think that we have is there's an ologist for everything.
Right.
A gastroenterologist,
They
a
just
dermatologist.
cutting the body up,
cardiologist.
dissecting the entire
And
body.
I'm pretty sure they ain't calling each other going, hey, I saw this. But what we do is we look at the whole body, right? And I treat Dale completely different than I treat David, but you both could complain of the same thing because the why is different. And that's the key behind it, is identifying that why. So if I can remove that knife from whatever's going on inside of you, then the body will heal itself. It's that intelligence. We call it innate intelligence.
Yeah. Okay.
Innate intelligence, the body is really working hard to heal and make you feel good. That's what's really crazy.
That's its job.
Is your body's running to pleasure, and you only become symptomatic when it can't run no more.
Your body is constantly, every second,
all the time.
your body is replicated
All
out
the
of the
time.
current cells that you have, but based on your behavior determines that next replication of a
Because
million
those cells are always
different cells.
regenerated.
Right. That's just like when you talk to folks and you say, oh, this, as stupid is as stupid does. But if you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, that's foolish behavior.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with your body. Your body is constantly saying, I can replicate myself. I can heal this, you call it the pinky, I'll call it the bump knee. So every time you go past that coffee table at night on your way to the bathroom, you bump that knee and it's swollen. Then after a week of doing the same thing, you go to the doctor and say, my knee is swollen, won't heal. And he says, okay, well, what are you doing? And you say, well, I keep bumping it on coffee. He said, well, guess what? Stop bumping it.
Right.
Yep.
And your knee will heal. And
That's an old chiropractic joke. People
that's
say,
why,
it hurts when I turn my head. I'm like, stop turning your head.
that's
You're healed.
exactly where we go to school. I find myself mainly in chiropractic audiences. And I actually just came off the board at Life University, a chiropractic school, and I was the only naturopath around. We are less predominant, especially in the southern states, because like the state like South Carolina does not license us.
Really?
So a lot
Naturopath.
of people, naturopathic
Okay.
doctor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
chiropractors can be licensed in all 50 states, but we are only licensed in 26 states. And it's only because I think, I'm going to say it from my perspective, okay? I think I'm the biggest threat.
Warning.
I think naturopaths are the biggest threat. I was
Threat to
talking
what?
Okay.
Go there.
You just, okay. So, to almost the system, the sick care system that we currently have in our nation, right?
Yeah.
And I think that something as simple as eat real food, which is basically like his functional medicine. It was my entire 4 years of education as I was going through naturopathy school. Well, it took me 8 years. You know how slow I am.
Right.
But anyway.
You got that.
So I got it done.
It's the end game that counts.
Right, it's the end game, right? That's why I keep saying to myself. But I say that to say, when we're going through these classes or this information, what I have learned now is even osteopath. We used to say like osteopathic medicine. So there's allopaths.
What's
right?
that?
Allopath are your medical doctors.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
And then you have chiropractors, right?
Okay.
Non-allopathic.
Okay. You have osteopathic doctors. Now, an Army doctor, this is my history, an Army doctor actually brought this back after his time over in the war in the early 1900s, brought the theory of it back from Europe.
Okay.
Which means we're going to merge medicine with herbology.
Gotcha.
Always bring that naturopathy. We're going to put it together. And then have a homeopathic doctor and a medical doctor. That's the best of both worlds.
Yes.
And it started that way. Before the 1920s, before they closed down 500 schools, medical schools, because they didn't prescribe to the pharmaceutical regime, right?
Okay.
So
and if I'm not mistaken, what I've heard is the pharmaceutical side resulted from the oil industry, petroleum. Is that correct? That petroleum is actually used in a lot of the
and so
medication
it's fluorides
and all that,
Yeah.
and that they were actually like, hey, there's an avenue here, and that they started funding the medical research to kind of guide and steer us in that direction.
Well, it's the entire Flexner's report. If you can read the Flexner report of
Okay.
I think it's 1920s or 22,
Okay.
when he based everything off of what medical schools was really going to teach doctors to use medicines with pharmaceuticals like as an advanced type of
Got it.
medicine.
Okay.
And now I don't know if he was paid to pull it all together,
Everybody was
but he literally brought this together. And then all the schools that were like an osteopathic school, or even the most advanced medical schools for women, the most for African Americans, those schools were closed because they weren't of standard. So,
Got it.
they used this report as a basis for changing
To
the
create the
laws in
standard.
Congress to support pharmaceutical companies. So that stated, I talked to an osteopathic doctor recently. Now, back in the day, they used to get like maybe half the school was functional and the other for the terms of what we understand it, homeopathic, and then the other side was medical. Now they get about 8 hours of nutrition in
That's
their
why
course.
They've
brings
actually
to the
medicine
point
is
of why.
sucked in the
Because they are
osteopath.
sucked in the
Wow.
licensing.
Yeah, the
It's the
DOs and
license.
the MDs are still going to look down a little bit at the DO. But it's because, and that's one of the problems with chiropractors is
I was going to
the
ask you.
osteopathic manipulation and the chiropractors are manipulating. They're like, we already got one. But now they've pulled them into that allopathic model so strongly that
They can't
most of the
keep up.
time your DO is going to treat you just like the
MDs.
typical medical side would. They've really taken all the nutrition sides out of it. And one of the problems with nutrition is the information.
Yes.
Right.
Right? There's,
Because
I
it
mean,
changes all the time. One minute eggs are good for you, the next minute eggs are not good for you. I'm just throwing eggs out there as an example, but it is so confusing when you're trying to live a healthy life and figure out what is right for me.
What's right.
What-
So naturopaths are at the end of the pool because we only are going to teach you what's natural.
Yeah.
We're only going to take the approach that is the least evasive approach. And so we're going to tell you
Which is, I'm
eat
sorry,
real food.
which is working with the body's natural instinct
That's right.
to bring you to wholeness.
To wholeness.
So when the body is screaming, and I there's this quote, and I don't know, I found it, I think it was probably from when we were doing research on you, it was, your body's not broken, it's waiting for you to listen. So when it's crying out to you, it's trying to say, work with me and we'll do it. So that's really what you're saying
Learn
is,
how
that's what a
talk
symptom
to
is.
you about-
Yes.
A symptom
exactly.
is it's cry.
Yeah.
it's crying out
A
to you.
pain is your sign going, hey, something's
It's just
not
a
right.
sign.
Yeah.
Those are just symptoms. Pain is
Right.
another symptom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what those things show up for is to go, hey,
Yep.
something's not working the way it's supposed to. So you got a couple different ways of treating it.
Okay.
You can put, black tape over your check engine light, or you
Take
can
it.
go
I did
figure
that
out
one time, and
what's
my
wrong.
transmission blew.
That's how that
Crazy.
works.
I can't even believe that.
Yeah,
But
and
we
so
keep doing that.
it's one of those things that, I can treat your symptom,
Right.
right?
Right. And get
And in
paid
my
a lot
field-
of money
Yes.
That's called green medicine.
because I never fix you.
But
this
if we
is what
fix
I
the
love
why,
about both of you is the one thing I learned from you, Mary, is treating the root of the cause. I mean, you've been just such an eye opener to both of us, and what's out there. If I have a headache, there's alternate to Tylenol or Aleve. There's natural things that you could do, cough medicine. I'm just throwing out random things, but there's alternates that we don't really know about that are a lot better for us, right?
And can I just talk on that though?
Sure.
Tylenol might be one of the most destructive
That's why I threw it out.
it's out there. Everybody takes it. It's everywhere. Everybody just think, oh, take a Tylenol. It's like that
Your
destroys your liver.
totally. And I will promise you one thing for sure, 100%. Your headache is not a result of a shortage of Tylenol.
Exactly.
So by the
Are
Tylenol,
you sure about that,
I am
Brad?
100%
Because I haven't had
sure.
Tylenol in my house in over 30
I'm just telling you,
years.
it's not
I
a
didn't realize though,
shortage.
it is a toxic
It's very toxic. They had that when the cruises were big. Everybody gets the drink package.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they drink all day long. They have a
No
headache the next morning. They take
hydration.
Tylenol
Use
and they
them.
repeat, and then they go into liver failure.
Yeah, because the
Alcohol and the
Tylenol.
Tylenol destroys the liver.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
So obviously there was a period where the homeopathy and the natural care back in the beginning, now you've explained kind of how it's changed. We're starting to see a reversal though, aren't we? Isn't
the
that-
conversation has changed nationally.
Changed quite a lot.
It has, and I think so. First of all, one of the things I didn't bring up is that Lincoln started the first homeopathic school in this nation.
Abraham Lincoln?
Abraham
You know,
Lincoln.
I was born on the same day as him.
Oh my gosh!
Happy birthday to me and Abe, which was like 3 days ago, 2 days ago.
Couple days ago.
And he tells me every year.
Happy birthday, Abe.
Every day.
So that's how far back. But homeopathy it's biblical, right?
Yeah.
It goes all the way back. I think now people. Well, we'll talk about the now. I'll address that at the end, but addressing the mind and the spiritual
Yeah.
is completely amiss unless you're in a behavioral health. We're going to take you over here to these people because we think you're cuckoo, right?
Yeah.
Or you have to be, we're just coming out of not being embarrassed about going to see someone who can
Mental
help me
health.
with my mental health, right? But it's so separate in the military, right? In my last 2 years, that's the first time that I said, okay, I can take off my battle rattle and actually go in and talk to people about my mind.
Yeah.
Right. But it has such a stigma. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about the spiritual, what do people do? Everybody's split up on Sundays. You're going here, there, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone should have the choice. But imagine instead of trying to pull this hectic life together, right, for your own sake, you go to one person who actually says, I can do literal assessments on you that tells me that your gut is not in balance with your mind and that your mind is not in balance with your spirit and it's not cuckoo woo-woo. It is scientifically based and applied.
Right.
So what I try to figure out too is when we get to the root cause, many, many times, 80% of the time now, I think people are saying between 80 and 90 is not a physiological issue.
Yeah.
The initial, it starts with the emotional.
I was going to say it's the
And
emotional.
to start with, or someone who doesn't have anything bigger than them to worry about.
You
or
know
to believe
Shembra
in.
Carter? You know Shembra?
From the harmonic.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
She was on and she was talking about when people come in who have like chronic lower back.
Yeah.
She's learned that typically those people are suffering from major financial stress.
Yeah.
And she puts them into the egg and she does this heavy drum beats. It's very drum beat and it gets that drum beat, and what it does is it begins to heal the emotion of that. And their back problems disappear because she's
I did
addressing the
ask if
emotional.
the financial issues disappeared as well, but
She's
she
like,
couldn't
no.
quite answer that.
Right. If we can magically get
We
it
can.
where you give me no reason
We're gonna have a whole new
ever
podcast.
again to have back issues, I'll be like, can I get into 2 of them every day? I know.
But what it was, though, was that whole sense of they might come to you, Doc, got an adjustment, we're having lower back problems. And you adjust them, they come back next year, still not there. But to your point, Mary, it's, hey, we can do the adjustments, but until you can dig into what's going on inside emotionally as well, because you are a whole being. And if you can balance that out, and to your point, hey, if you can bring somebody that says, hey, we can bring this all together.
And feel comfortable doing it, because
That's the key.
The truth is, it's easier for me to help that young man over there who's a teenager, and now I'm going to get to your point, than it is for me to help you, who's always thought a certain way. My mother used to say, old dogs, new tricks. You can't train an old dog.
Did you just call me an old dog?
To mess stuff up.
Well, partly, but here's the thing.
She called me an old dog.
An old dog.
Well, I'm
my
sorry.
own podcast.
They call it
I don't get to say it.
new tricks,
gonna bring it up.
not that old.
I need
Not-
emotional
I'm
healing.
Not that old. I got you.
It's right there.
But when you talk about, the youth today, so you have the Z generation and the millennials who are now seeing the outcome of mama and grandma and grandpa, how they stayed in the health care system in America all of their lives, how they believed in it. And then the results was not having the functional life because grandpa's in the pamper all
Well, I think
day.
that's the problem now is kids his age have never lived in a cleaner area.
That's true too.
So they don't know
the
any
food
different.
wasn't like it was when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And so they've never experienced real foods.
Yeah.
They've always had the genetically modified stuff, the pesticides, the herbicides, the fungicides, right?
Yeah.
And so they really don't stand a chance. And all those things are tearing up their guts. When I started functional medicine, none of my patients were younger than 40. But I have a 5-year-old now that can't break down food.
Wow.
That kid's not been around long enough to have
problems.
anything
Yeah.
other than the food he's eating is messing up his
As a
gut.
parent, that
simple as that.
petrifies me. And I'm constantly talking to these boys about their food choices. You've got to read the labels. We don't do GMOs. Obviously, we try not to buy that, but as they
But
get
even
older,
with that, though,
they make their own choices.
well, but
and
the
it's
labels are
difficult.
deceptive because
Yeah.
it's like,
Very.
hey, no sugar, but it's some other.
It's another name.
There's 42 names for sugar.
Yeah, I call it a
can't
chemical
pronounce
crap
it.
storm.
Yeah,
Chemical crap.
It's not
But
really
we
crap.
can see through it,
when I see
right?
it.
Just keep
But
it
it's
simple.
But that's
the
that
rule of thumb is if it's
education.
got more than 5 ingredients, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it.
Right.
And if you can't pronounce it, but you can't define it, don't eat it.
So
That's
if I can,
great.
I want to
That's
steer
great.
this because obviously, look, we all understand that the system's broke. So what I want to do is let's get back to that person who's sitting out there going, okay, this is all great. I get it. Help me. I feel stuck. Where do I start? And what are some of the baselines I'm looking for? For you, it's homeopathic, and for you, it's that gut health thing. Let's get into like, where does somebody start today to start the path of wholeness?
Well, it's the same way we started. So the first thing people would do is make an appointment with me. Brad and I have already talked about the perfect scenario for people coming through the door to get to where he is. Okay, now, first of all, let me caveat it. I think that everybody needs to see a chiropractor all the time. That should
Why?
be a lifestyle because your neurons run through your spinal column in your body, and they control everything in every system in your body, every organ. When we are moving, doing this, doing that, pressure can be on your spine, and you can have a problem that you think is, oh, I just got this, heart condition, where it's just subluxation or pressure on the spine. And when you do this, you free the body up. You help that energy to flow like it should through the body. It keeps your first of all, helps me
wanna add
not to
anything
bend
to
so
that?
much.
She's close.
I see you sitting up
I'm
there.
into the chiropractor. So I would say,
So the brain controls everything, right?
Yes.
So the fact that your heart's beating right now, you're not telling it to, the brain is. You're digesting food, you don't tell it to, your brain does. But how does it get to all of your organs? It comes down your spinal cord, it leaves the spine via a peripheral nerve. So between each bone, so one bone is here, one bone is there, and it forms the foramen where the nerve leaves. And so if there's any misalignment in the spine, whether it be laterally or from front to back, and you put pressure on that nerve, and now I'm talking pressure, the weight of a dime on my pinky pressure.
Okay.
Not very much.
So it doesn't take much at
Nerves are
all.
very
You're
small.
changing the function of that nerve.
Wow.
You're not cutting it off. People go, I got a pinched nerve. I'm like, move your foot. And they move it. I go, that nerve's not pinched. Because if it was pinched, you couldn't move your nerve. And I tell people, I'm like, think of a water hose.
Okay.
So here's a water hose. Water's coming out of it. Well, I can bend it in two, pinch it. Is any water coming out of it?
No.
No. But I can squeeze it and alter the stream of the water.
Gotcha.
And that's what the pressure does when the spine moves and touches it. And the problem that we have is this body of ours always wants health.
Yeah.
Always. And so you may have an injury and the body's going to compensate to keep you happy and out of pain. And it's going to compensate and compensate and compensate.
Oh my
And
gosh,
what does that
yes,
mean? That means these bones are moving and touching nerves, right? And the dysfunction's mild that you don't even know. You think everything is fine. And then something happens. And it could be pain in the spine, or it could be pain in the big toe. And people think if their big toe hurts, there's got to be something wrong down there. What I do, I'm like, well, maybe, but I'm going to track the toe, the peripheral nerve, to the spine, to the cord, to the brainstem, to the brain.
Okay.
Because that injury could be in any one of those areas.
Gotcha.
And if you don't know why something's not working, then you're never going to fix it.
Yeah.
And so she said neurons, and I was like, well, that's pretty close.
Well,
It's a neuron.
Or you can take that
Stay in your
answer.
lane, Dr. Mary.
You can
I'm
take
like,
that answer. She's just
neurons.
showing out. But I
You're
would
thinking
say,
protons,
but
neurons.
the bottom line is chiropractor needs to be in your life.
It does, because
24/7,
everything we do,
Yeah.
my children were adjusted at birth.
And they know.
And because, when they're coming out of the vaginal canal, they rotate the head. And my daughter, who's my first, her neck cavitated, meaning it popped. And I'm like, just pop my kid's neck.
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting for them to do the APGAR scores and everything and leave her alone. And I went over and I adjusted her neck.
Wow.
And everybody thinks that I took this
that can affect chronic,
8-pound
right?
baby and went,
No.
and I did not.
No.
It's literally just feeling the misalignment, and they're so small. I'm literally getting it done by going like that.
Yeah.
And then I feel it again to make sure that it's in. So colicky babies, crabby
That's what I was going
babies,
to say, colicky. Yeah.
it's all those things. And so when she's talking about everybody needs an adjustment, you do. And there's been this stigmatism of we're going to break your neck, stroke you out. Once you go, you always got to go. And of course, you could hurt somebody, but
That's any doctor.
any doctor
in
could
the
hurt
world.
anybody.
Yeah.
The
Hurt
incidence of these injuries,
Right.
incidence of stroke is 1 in 5 million. And the people that get it is the doctor that doesn't do his due diligence. He didn't do an exam. And there's some simple things that you can do to rule that out, to go, it's not even a possibility.
Yeah.
In my practice, I've adjusted thousands upon thousands of people, and never have we seen anything even close to that.
Yeah.
But she's right. And everybody needs all of it. It's just not one thing.
No, and you need to get it as early as possible. Because to your point, I started seeing a chiropractor as an adult.
Yeah.
I didn't know as I started my medical
As
nursing
us?
out of high school. So, I had to come into the wellness world and was birthed into it, if you will. And when I went to get my atlas adjusted, right, I took the baby. My daughter was 12 at the time, and I had hers checked. I'm like, she's 12, she'll be fine. No, she was almost as far out of alignment as I was, but he said it had to happen at birth because she's too young to have it as a degenerative, like mine. I have stenosis in 3 places, but that's 30 years in the Army, right?
Yeah.
So that was something that I said, well, I wish my baby was under chiropractic care from the time she was born. And then you run into, I run into a lot of chiropractors being on the board of trustees, having been, and some of them will say, I've never taken a pill a day in my life.
Because they do
You know
it
what's so
through
funny?
manipulation.
Every time I
right?
go to the
Yes.
doctor, first thing they do is they give you that little question, all right, what medications you're on? And I'm like, none.
None.
They
And
don't believe
literally, they all sit and go, you're not on anything?
You have to be
and I'm
on
like,
something.
no. And I'm like,
That's what they truly believe.
they literally are like, how are you at your age? And I'm not going to tell you my age, so don't even ask.
He just said a birthday.
Actually, if you put it in the comments, I'll tell you.
Very
But-
young.
sorry.
He's a young, good-looking young.
But they do get blown away because they're like,
Right.
how are you not? And I'm like, because I do, literally, I've been doing chiropractic since I was 20. Like literally, like faithfully. It's
But
like,
see, to your point of talking to the folks who might be listening today, and they're far along.
yeah.
It doesn't take but 6 months for the body to recreate
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly
My
right.
mother is a great example. She's one of my greatest testimonies because I actually took over, I call it taking over her health when she was about 64.
Yeah.
And so she had hypothyroidism, she had arthritis, she had smoked for 40 years. She really had a lot of stuff going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I said, Mom, look,
And how old was she?
She at the time she was around 64.
Wow.
Okay. And so I go into her appointment. I said, I'm gonna go with you. Now I take my little big green book, Healing for Prescriptional Nutritional
PDR.
Healing, right? So I take my PDR with me, and I said, I don't, because I hadn't graduated, but told you it took 8 years. So I got it under my arm. So I'm sitting down and I listened to her doc go over her numbers. In fact, we were just talking about the T numbers and all that, and I said, listen, I would like us to try something new. I said, you have her on Synthroid, but from my research, I see that Synthroid actually causes arthritis in the body. I was like, so can we switch her to Anthroid, something that's armor? I said, it's something a little more natural, right? That way we stop eating away at her muscles, right, and her tissue, And I will at the same time put her on some iodine, natural seaweed iodine, right? And actually put her on some while we watch her T levels. And as she improves, just keep backing her up. It didn't take us 6 months.
Yeah.
It took us about 6 months to get a 64-year-old off of all of her thyroid medicine. And in a year, I had her off all medication. She is, and just turned on January 11th, 94 years old.
30
no pharmaceutical
years.
medicine.
30 years
30
without
years.
pharmaceuticals after 64.
And
After
she
64.
started later in life, so it's never too late.
never too
That's
late.
the
Never too
thing.
late.
People
Listen,
need to understand.
Did you all hear that out there, Asher? Bring her here. Did you all hear what Dr. Mary just said? 64, 30 years without the medicine. She's 94 years old.
That's right.
And it's
That's a
not too
testimony.
late.
So
It's
going
never
through the
too late.
gut is what naturopaths do. Now, the homeopathy, which Brad also knows homeopathy very well, he creates his own homeopathy.
What a creative.
Well, you're pretty good,
Come on,
sir.
Brad.
So, but it is a form of medicine, right? That is really, I like to call it remedies and keep myself,
remedies.
right?
Absolutely.
Remedies, right?
Yeah.
That come from minerals. It could come from anything on earth, really.
Energy.
But energy, right? And this is diluted down to these very small molecules, right? And it goes right into the bloodstream. The nice thing about it is that it does not cause side effects in the body.
So this is the minerals that you're talking
Well,
about.
these are homeopathy,
Homeopathy.
right?
Okay.
Homeopathy.
Yeah.
And it never, ever contraindicates with any medicine.
See, that's what I think is fascinating, because when I come to you and you prescribe a protocol, where
Or I recommend, because I can't
excuse me.
prescribe
Sorry,
anything.
recommend.
I'm not licensed for a prescription.
Just for the state.
I'm
It was
licensed
a
as a
miss-
nurse,
she
not
missed-
misquote, I'm
Yeah.
uneducated. I didn't take 8 years.
I got you. There you go.
She
Didn't
said
take
it, she
you.
did.
But you could have done it in 4.
Yeah, you said it.
No, I'm learning.
I was like, you're covered. She said it. You did.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, but that's one thing you talked about with me, was all the enzymes or the
That's
different
Peptides,
supplements,
yeah.
peptides, they don't interact with each other, and it's fine. So that in itself tells you that it's good for your body.
But
if
what's
there's
the
no
difference,
altering.
I guess, right? Because that's the thing when Dale first started talking to me about all this and we were ordering all this, I was like, well, what is the difference between what we take when you recommend versus a prescription from a pharmacy?
Okay.
From
Which one? Brad, you want to take this one?
Wait,
I'll go first and then we'll let Brad, because he's going to bring it.
Because it's
He's going to bring it
Because
home.
you're saying, hey, you're still putting stuff in your body.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's the
What's the
difference?
difference? So the difference would be chemicals added to enhance the effect of this herb or not.
Gotcha.
So case in point, I love using valerian root, right? Valerian root really helps to relax the nerves, and it helps. So therefore, it helps pain management. It brings down inflammation. And so that's when I'm able to give it to people. I'll give it to folks in a capsule or something. I'm like, okay, take valerian. But I also will tell them, take it 30 minutes before you go to bed, because it'll help work overnight. It's going to make you sleepy, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Valerian root is the root and the basis for Valium. So they created Valium off of valerian root, and they added other chemicals to boost its effect.
Oh, so that's what
Right?
it is, because when we take things with you, it takes a little bit longer for it to get in your system for the process. So
Hence
pharmaceuticals,
Depending on
boost it.
what it is.
Okay.
Depending on herbs, those
Gotcha.
are herbs. So when I
That's
say
interesting.
naturopathy, I'm thinking mostly of herbiology and herbs.
Okay.
Homeopathics are diluted.
Gotcha.
So that's a different form of medicine. So that one goes right into, under sublingual is usually how you're taking it.
Under the
typically.
tongue.
And under the tongue, it goes right into the bloodstream. However, with the herbs, it has to go in the gut and be broken down and absorbed from there. So sometimes it can take a little bit longer.
Gotcha.
That's interesting.
So what the medications do, they excite and suppress.
They what?
They excite and they suppress.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can name it anything you want. And the bad part about most medications are, they'll do that job that we took it, but what are the repercussions? I mean, watch TV at any drug
Oh my
commercial,
gosh.
Oh, Lord.
and the guy
They
comes
scare
on.
the crap
Scary.
out of
Yeah,
you.
once they told you how great it is, the guy comes in the background. He's like, this may cause constipation, diarrhea, blurred vision, vomiting, diarrhea,
And death.
Bleeding
and
eyes.
it's sometimes death. And you're like, dude, I had a headache and now I'm diarrhea.
I'm sort of like, I'm going to deal with the toenail fungus.
How about I take my headache over here?
Right. You know, and the number one side effect for headache medication is headaches. And it's because it's exciting, suppressing the brain, right? And that's one of the things, you know, we were talking about mental health.
Yeah.
Drugs excite and suppress.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what it's doing, it's literally covering up that symptom that they're complaining about.
Right.
So when you talk about homeopathy or herbals or supplements, it's really you know, the herbs, it's going to be completely different than homeopathy because I can take Vicodin or Valium and I can create a Vicodin or Valium remedy that doesn't have any of the side effects. And you put that under the tongue and you get that same result. Is it as strong as it is fast? No, because it is a drop of water that has been imprinted with the same energy that Valium has in it. But when we're talking about health, you can't excite the body into health and you can't suppress it into health. And that's where medications come in. And I'm not anti-drug. So many people think I am because I am a chiropractor and I do functional medicine, but I'm not. Right. I had knee surgery, Percocet.
And when I broke my ankle and it came off, I was like, do not, oh no, I needed Demerol on the spot.
So she's hitting morphine.
Give it to me right now.
So Percocet, morphine.
Yeah, no, I need it. Don't touch me until I get 10 milligrams.
I think medication has a great space.
It does.
Because, you know, we can hurt ourselves and take these pain pills, or we can have a condition and it help us get by it. But medication for life is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Her mom having a thyroid problem, taking Synthroid. One of the number one things I see with thyroid, they have a gluten problem. Guess what used to be in Synthroid? Gluten. Yeah, it's out now. But you're going, okay. And then the other thing, the thyroid really gets me going because only 16% of the thyroid population is properly diagnosed. So if you got 10 thyroid patients, they're all hypothyroid. 1.6 of them truly are. The others aren't.
What's a hypothyroid?
Hypothyroid just means it's lazy.
Okay, so it's not functioning the way it should, so it needs to focus.
It's not the opposite.
And it's the master gland trying to communicate with all the cells, and the cells all communicate with the pituitary to tell it what to do. And so it's a very small percentage, but there's hundreds upon thousands being treated all alike. And that's where Dr. Mary and I come along and go, hey, I get it. And you know, we just try to be nice and go, well, let's really figure out why it's going on. Right. Yeah. So I don't ever tell people to stop taking medications. Yeah. It's not in my scope.
Right.
But what I do is I get the body to function, and then their medication really works. And they got to call their doctor and go, hey, I'm feeling out of my mind. They're like, well, you're taking too much. And I'm like, you're right. And I'm the one telling them to do it because now that drug's working. So like blood pressure medicine, if all of a sudden we're regulating your blood pressure and you take a pill, it's too low and they're feeling out of sorts, I'm like, call your doctor. He's going to tell you stop taking it. The same thing with diabetes.
They'll never tell you to stop taking it.
They have to, because if they don't, they're going to kill you.
Right.
So that's our
they
only
want to hold on to their licenses too. And if you talk about health care and versus what we're doing every day, the well care, I would say one is more emergent than the other, right? Okay. So when you get to a state where it's the emergency or we can't reverse this, then we know that we need to escalate it to this level.
Yeah, it's
but people should start
chronic.
here.
Right.
So acute versus chronic. Yeah. I think that people should have him in their lives every day, but then bring me alongside to be almost that initial or primary natural well care doctor, right? So that I can then look for those root causes and hopefully get them into the reverse state. So then when you leave me, you're clean, your cells are happy, they're responsive, right? They're getting rid of stuff quickly. And you know what to do. Yeah. It's education in life. Then I could send them to this buddy over here. And then if you don't, because she was like, Dr. Mary, I feel great. I'm out playing tennis every day. I'm a champion. I can do this. I can do that. But I still can't lose these last 25 pounds.
You didn't use the English accent.
Yeah, the English accent.
You got it for me?
I could do English accent.
I'm going to do a Nigerian accent. If I do any kind of accent, it's going to come out.
You nailed it except for the English accent.
She's African.
Oh, you think I did? So that's true. That's true. So
if I can sum it up, though, I want to get back, and it just gets back to this line. Your body is not broken. It's just waiting for you to listen. And I think that whole, what you just said about the medicine, I think that's an important thing I want to park on for a minute, is when people are coming for that acute sort of relief is what they're looking for. You know, and back in the day when we were in ministry, I had a pastor say to me one time, he's like, David, because it was getting people to grow, right, and change. And he said,
Transform.
in 25 years of my life of pastoring, I've realized one thing. I said, what? And he says, people don't want repentance, they want relief.
Isn't that
Right.
powerful?
Ooh, wait a minute. Let that sink. Give me a second. Whoa. Whoa. Right?
It's deep.
At the end of the day.
Well, it is,
It's true.
because what he was
Think about
saying
it.
was what they didn't want is they would come to you with all these things,
Yeah.
and they didn't want the cure. They didn't want to know that the cure is you need to transform.
You need to do something.
You need to transform your thinking.
Change.
You need to transform and mature in your mind. You need to transform and mature in your approach and your decision making, all that. What they wanted was take my problems away, make the pain go
Everybody
away, Doc.
does.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
all do.
really,
I mean,
that's the reason that people run and take a pill,
yeah.
because it's a lot easier to than
Yeah.
put the work in of going,
is.
what's in this food?
Yes.
What is this I'm drinking?
Right.
Yes.
Right? What does this
Yes.
label mean?
Yes.
I don't recognize any of these words, but I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
And Brad, that's why people won't come to see me.
Well,
right?
and the thing
They
is
won't.
we when we're talking to them, I'm not great at sugarcoating.
No, you're
Well,
not.
I mean,
that's
not.
individual. Like,
And
You-
it
if they
doesn't
have
matter
their
who
back,
you
they'll
are.
come
I'd make
to
a
you.
bad doctor because
No.
I'd be like coddling and sugarcoating and
but see,
hugging.
if they have a bad back, they will go to a chiropractor.
They will.
Right? But they will never willingly come to me, understanding that the number one thing I'm going to do is help them to shift their lifestyle.
Well, that's the
So that they can
That's-
make better choices. I had a doctor who was working right alongside, and she said, Dr. Mary, I don't care what you do. Now, she's one of our lead chiropractors, and she's like, I don't care what you do. You ain't going to get me in that chair, trying to tell me to change and stop drinking my red wine. I told her, I said, I may not tell you that. She was like, yeah, well, we ain't going to take a chance, right? But one day she did have a headache, and she got in my chair. I was able to get it, but I say that to say, people don't want to change.
There's tough decisions to be made, and they're not really tough. It's like, look, Girl Scout cookies are right now, right? And
I didn't even
I'll
know.
buy like 42 boxes of them, but I'll tell you
Gluten,
what.
That's a lot of gluten.
No, I know. No, it is, right?
Yeah,
but,
but it's really the
I also know
glyphosate.
that, look, I have a decision to make, right? Do I want to bloat myself? Do I want to, do all this? Or do I want to indulge, And that's, I think it comes down to the fundamental thing of like, how well do you want to be?
And I
It's
think
nothing tastes as good as feeling good. And when you can accept that,
Yeah.
then you can say no to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
think,
that's a
Dr.
good-
Bradley, that
wow.
was one.
Hold on.
Okay.
Nothing tastes as good. Like, that's a good
feeling
line.
good.
Say that again.
Nothing tastes as good as feeling good.
Yeah.
And when
it's
you
true.
accept that,
It's true.
and you're looking at these things, I mean, I used to be a foodie. You don't get to be my size. It's going, oh, I'm not eating that. All right. And I've been gluten free for 25 years. And so Girl Scout cookies are easy for me.
Yeah.
I think they did come up with some gluten free ones, though. I was
And
like,
we don't want them. I don't trust them. I don't
Well, it's
trust
just
the
more,
brand.
it's just different
I'm not telling
chemicals.
people not to.
Yeah.
This is a tricky.
I
This is
love
why
them.
we don't.
I just can't eat them.
Right? I mean, I think about the little peanut butter chocolate
That'll
cover
be,
was
No,
that'll
way
be the
down.
most viral clip of this whole show.
I don't know what the little caramel and coconutty ones.
that's
Look, I'm
me.
not
Oh
calling
my
it.
God.
They got
That
new
was
ones.
milk.
They're called
French toast.
no, French toast.
French toast, shaped in shape of
And
French
wait.
toast and taste
Oh,
like
my-
Before you know that, that'll be a vodka.
But, oh my. Well, there. Okay, we won't talk
We don't
about
have French toast, but there's bubblegum,
this-
cotton candy, but
no, but this is a good subject because we end up feeling bad that we're trying to stop the chemical glyphosate that is used to round up this wheat that we use in making flour,
all this
and
stuff.
then attaching that with the name that's naturally occurring in wheat. Well, guess what? When I go to Europe, I don't have these problems. If I don't have these problems, and that's because they don't use Roundup. So we, the real fight is not the chemicals. So I love the Girl Scout cookies, and I wish they didn't have this type of
it's
attachment, right?
the thing that'll make you absolutely disgusted is why is there Roundup in the flour? Does anybody know?
Okay.
Okay, that's a good
So
question.
when it comes time to harvest wheat,
Okay.
Roundup causes it to swell. So you get a bigger yield,
No,
So that's
are you
just,
kidding me?
just like our
Well,
eggs and our chickens,
And
huh?
so like when the
Yeah.
when the combine's going
Get
through
rid of
cutting, it looks like these big teeth.
Yeah.
Their problem was these get clogged and it slows them down.
Okay.
But they can put the Roundup on it, makes it swell, so these don't get clogged.
Are you
So the production's much better,
Much faster.
and it weighs more.
So they get some money.
They sell more.
Well, you know what I heard
If
too,
you
though?
follow the
Sickening.
dollars in America or around the world, but especially here in this regard, it makes sense.
Which is the national conversation we're having right now.
It is.
Like it's true there, but I want to talk about the wheat though.
Okay, I wanna
I've
go
actually
back.
heard.
It's a step.
I did this whole thing where the wheat that we actually have now is not actual wheat.
No.
Like because they've modified it, that if you went back to the wheat that we raised 200 years ago that they farmed,
150.
was a totally different grain.
If you talk about Jesus,
Come on now.
and when Jesus said, break, eat, and think of me, he wasn't poisoning folks.
Yeah.
And that was called Durham wheat, also known as
Yes.
semolina.
Okay.
And it was very, very
Africa,
tall.
My husband's nation.
The wheat that we have today is short.
Yeah.
It's genetically modified.
Yeah.
So I've studied all these things, and I've done a test on myself of why I can't eat gluten. And I know exactly what peptide I react to, and it just so happens to be the same one that they genetically modify.
Wow.
Okay.
And like I said, I've been doing this 25 years, and I was in a grocery store that had an Amish section.
Oh.
And it dinged my brain that went, Amish don't genetically modify.
That's right.
So I bought the noodles, made them, and I'm like, okay, wait for it, because I'm going to bloat and feel crazy bad if I eat wheat.
Yeah.
And I ate it, and I'm good. Plugged for the island.
That's why
Nunzio.
I've always loved
Nunzio?
Pennsylvania.
Nunzio.
Sure.
All right.
There
He
you go.
imports his flour, makes his own bread, makes his own noodles.
All right, guys.
There
Hey,
we go.
Asher, Nunzio's restaurant is an Italian restaurant. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, on the south
And then the
end.
little,
Yeah.
And
little
they
Italy.
have
And
import their flour from
pasta
Italy,
shop here,
so it's
they
not
get their
genetically
stuff
modified.
imported.
Okay.
And he makes all of his own bread and all of his own pasta. So me and two of my gluten-free children can go there, and we annihilate that bread bowl.
I want to annihilate some tonight.
Yes,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
Happy,
I-
happy
I-
Valentine's Day.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, David. You ain't getting in.
You're not getting
I
in
know,
on
right?
Valentine's
All right.
Day.
To come back to something that you said that I learned going through the program with you, because I do want to kind of talk about the program.
We
that
have
we've
to
been
talk
through
about
with
the
you guys.
program.
This has been so amazing. But Dr. Bradley, something that you said is, I figured out when I finally felt good, when I ate bad, I was like, oh, I'm eating bad. Because you're so used to feeling bloated and feeling nasty, you think that's your norm. All of a sudden, I was cleaned up and I felt good. When I had that little bit of inflammation or I ate that thing that wasn't good, I felt crappy, and it's so not worth going backwards.
That's my goal for every
That's what you had
patient.
said. Yeah.
Is to clean them, because when they come in, and the analogy I use is when your house is on fire and you throw a match at it,
Yeah.
can you tell? But if I put the fire out and throw a match at it, it's going to burn. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to put your fire out.
Yeah.
Inflammation. People can't lose weight when they're inflamed.
No.
Right? And
So let's
the whole
Yeah, let's
secret.
park on this.
go-
And stress can cause
how did you help
inflammation.
us lose all this weight?
Yeah.
It's literally, my weight loss program was developed from my functional medicine work, right? So I was treating diabetes, hypothyroid, adrenal problems. I'm tired, I'm sick. They tell me I'm fine, but I don't feel good. But the side effect of everything I always did was people lost weight. And I never was telling people how much to eat. I just told them what to eat. And so I developed a weight loss program, and I'm like, okay, well, I do know that nobody's breaking down their food. So I'm going to give you a digestive enzyme.
Yes.
And then we created some peptides, which are amino acids naturally occurring in your body that are going to help speed up metabolism and burn fat. And then I'm going to tell you what you can eat, right? And then the cool thing about it is just real food, right? And in a weight loss program, in order to lose weight, you got to be in a deficit. And so we incorporated the intermittent fasting because that's going to help with inflammation even faster.
Yeah. Because that
And then we
eats
keep it
away
clean.
at the inflammation.
Can you talk
correct?
about intermittent fasting? What is that?
So intermittent fasting is putting a period of time where you're not eating. So most people eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? So in intermittent fasting, we want to end dinner around 6 p.m. and not eat again until noon. And what that does is, you and I were talking about it earlier. I told you all food's inflammatory. Kale, spinach, chicken wings, Big Macs, all
So
of it's
healthy
inflammatory.
food is inflammatory?
All food is inflammatory.
All food.
And if you're not digesting food, you're not digesting spinach, kale, or Big Macs. And so if it doesn't matter. So many people will tell me that they've tried this diet and that diet. And I told you, I was like, you don't fix the holes in your bucket. You can make change, but you got to treat David, you got to treat Dale, you got to treat Mary, and it's got to be different.
Yeah.
because we're all a little bit different. And when I'm looking at weight loss, I'm screening them first, going, okay.
Are you serious?
What's the problem?
Well, no, the thing is, I'm going, this is going to work for you, or you got bigger fish to fry. And once I fry them fish, then we'll come back and talk about weight loss. So I looked
That's
at the
where Dr.
patients.
Mary fried the fish before I came
That's
to you.
exactly right.
Right. You deal with that
She
emotion.
cleaned up all the stuff so
Yeah.
that when you got to me, I'm like, okay, this is going to be easy. I can tell you what to eat and give you digestive enzymes and peptides, and we'll peel that weight off. And the ultimate goal at the end of the day is to walk away going, I can maintain this the rest of my life.
Amen.
And
That's
so
exactly
many
right.
so many weight loss programs out there. Don't let me get started about Ozempic and Wegovy.
Yeah. Well, go there.
I'm not even gonna- I'm not even-
Ozempic right now, they're
Go there.
talking about
You may
there's some
need to.
serious side effects. Like people are losing, they're going blind.
Yeah, the list
Can
is
I say
long.
something? That's how this started. Because I came to Dr. Mary and I said, Dr. Mary, I'm done. October of 2024. I said, I am absolutely done. I'm going to do Ozempic. I've tried everything. She says, you will not.
Thank you. got that
You
nerve.
will not. I mean, I thought she was going to jump
Because
off the chair and
she had
strangle
friends doing
me.
it and they were losing a ton of weight.
And
Sure.
I'd
But what do they
asked
look
my
like now?
friends,
Oh my God.
Hold on. I'd ask my friends, what's the side effect? That's always my
watch the show.
first thing, all the time. And they're absolutely, I was like, there has to be a side effect. So I even asked Dr. Mary, what's the side effect? And she put it into a computer and all these side effects popped up. I'm like, okay, can't do that. My gut had told me no. And that's when she referred me to you. So let's talk about Ozempic, because I can't tell you how many women, sorry, because I'm passionate. I am so passionate about this because I have so many women look at me and say, what did you do? Because they saw the fat Dale, and then they look at me and they're like, what are you doing? And I like I told you, Dr. Mary, I give your name out at least once a week, to say this is, and I will tell them about what I did. And it makes sense. And I've begged so many women not to do Ozempic because we can do it with our body if we start to understand our body, what it accepts, because we haven't even talked about that yet. You taught me through inflammation, and I want to get to that. If I'm looking at the scale, what my body likes and doesn't like. Tomatoes. I pounded tomatoes. Love not tomatoes, tomatoes. I knew you were looking at me with that. But you taught me.
Tomato where I'm from.
Girl, it was tomato. Welcome, tomato almost.
I don't know what y'all are talking
Tomato,
about.
tomato.
Knew that was coming.
Tomato.
But that's why I'm passionate. So I'm sorry I jumped in, because there's so many women that are just desperate, especially in their 40s. Desperate, don't know what to do. And I felt like both of you were just such a lifeline for me.
The thing that I think that's
So-
going to be the biggest problem, if they did get away from the side effects, let's not even talk about the side effects from those things.
Yeah.
So people are losing tons and tons of weight. Well, now you've lost the weight, you don't take Ozempic anymore. What are you going to do?
Yeah. It gets
Now what?
right back on.
So they're not teaching anybody how this body works and how to eat.
It's a magic pill.
Yeah,
It's a
and so-
magic pill.
Again, we're covering up that check engine light with a Band-Aid.
And it's
Stress is bigger than anything.
It is.
And we talk about physical, chemical, emotional stress, right? And nobody realizes all that stress inside and up there,
Yeah.
right? And so letting go of it, I mean, it's easy to say,
it is.
right? But actually doing it. And so that's where, things like meditation, those play a huge
Spiritual
role.
peace.
Your self-talk,
Yeah.
right? What are you telling yourself? You
Yeah.
tell yourself you're a loser long enough, guess what you're going to be?
You got to believe in something bigger than yourself, so
Yeah.
you don't think it's all on you.
It's funny. I had remember Steve Benitez?
Yes.
It's this guy when I was in ministry years ago and I interviewed him. He's this mystical guy from Europe. And he taught me this old ancient practice that they do. They were talking about the self-talk. What he was talking about, he said, imagine a horse carriage, horses, and a driver. Right? And he's like, and if you look at it, he's like, picture it in your head. I was like, oh yeah, picture it. He's like, the horses are emotions, the carriage is your body, the driver's your mind. And he's like, but then there's you. And he's like, and I was like, well, where am I? He goes, you're the observer. He goes, you are looking at it. The emotions out of control will take that body drive it off a cliff.
Yep.
And the driver, out of control emotions, the driver can't do anything about it. Then the driver can control the emotions, but if the body's broken down, it's not going anywhere.
That's right.
And he's like, but then there's you who can see it all. And then your job is to bring that into balance and harmony and harmonize that by the decisions you make.
But most people are just living and taking what they get.
Right.
Yes,
Well,
that's
but I
exactly
only
right.
say that because it hit me really hard because what it did is it really put the responsibility on me. Like, that's the one
And
thing.
That's what nobody wants.
Yeah, right?
That's
It was
the
like,
problem.
I walked away from that conversation going, oh, like I have a lot of control over this
Yeah,
whole
and
shit.
all of a sudden it became your job.
It did.
Before we just existed.
Yeah.
But-
But-
that's really what so many people are going through.
Right.
Especially younger people.
Right.
Right? It's a woe is me and blah blah blah. And I'm like, hey, brother, you created that. You didn't even realize it.
We're at minute 15.
Oh, I'm 50. Okay. So, sorry. Because this is so awesome, by the way. And I don't care because, Rogan has 3-hour podcasts. If Joe can do it, we can do it. So,
And we can edit.
Was it 6:34?
yeah, I know. Okay.
he just wants to be
but I
mindful
want to
of
get back to
time.
Ozempic because obviously it's a big topic of conversation. And I want to give people a lifeline and a hope that say, look, you can go that route, but there are right now, and I thought too, I was going to say the Ozempic, we're the only country in the world that's allowed to sell it. Like, nobody else will sell it.
Everybody else is banned it.
So
For good reason.
Right, and the manufacturer is not even here. So it's their number one drug, and they can't even sell it in Europe where they're from.
And then the sad part about it is it's actually a good diabetic medicine.
Okay.
For the screaming diabetic.
Yeah.
And it's the type 2.
Okay.
And I will yell and scream that I don't care if you're type 2 and how bad it is. You
It's
don't need
reversible.
Ozempic.
It's
But the people that are 400 or 500 pounds and
Yeah.
screaming diabetics, go ahead and take the Ozempic. But they were having difficulties getting it because it became, popular because of the, actors and actresses that are losing all this weight. And so now everybody wanted it.
Yeah.
And it became very expensive.
Yeah.
And so, to me, it's just like, man.
And we can do some weight off drops for $13.
Right.
Well, just saying.
we can do-
My biggest problem is at the end of the day,
Yeah.
they don't know what to
To do.
do when it's
and that's
over.
the whole point.
And
right
that's
there.
that's what really gripes me is people do diets and they lose weight, they look great,
Right.
but then what? They gain it back, and that's
The
been my whole
emotional
goal with
roller
even
coaster.
when you and I talked because you exercise so much. And I'm like, hey, listen, you got to chill out, man, because I know what you're thinking. I know where your brain's
stress
going,
in
so
the
let me
body.
just preempt it going. That scale is your friend.
And that
It
was one of,
is.
you've got a couple quotes that I've loved and I think of all the time. And actually, David got on the scale the other day and I said, remember,
No, I wouldn't get on the
he
scale.
wouldn't get on the scale. That's right.
Because I was a bad boy for like 4
That's
or
when
5
you
days.
have to.
Right? And she goes, did you...
No, let me tell the story.
Tell it.
So I said to him, remember what Dr. Bradley said? The scale's your friend.
I was like, that's
It's
the name.
telling you what's going on. Like literally, because most people, most women, look at the scale and hate the scale.
Yeah.
And you taught me that, no, that's a friend. That's an indicator. And it's telling you what's going on with your body. So look at it with kindness. And that changed my whole mindset. And I promise you, and you think I'm crazy, but there's days that I'm like, oh no, I don't want to get on the scale. I swear to God, I put on weight because I'm not being nice to the scale.
I
And
yell
then
at
there's
it.
days, there's days that I'm like, I'm feeling good. I'm like, all right, scale, you and me are friends today, and
yeah.
I'm good.
Well, I've had to buy one to get on his program because I'm like, scale, you going in the trash.
Mine.
I don't believe anything you have to say.
You're a
Devil,
liar.
get out of my house,
That's
devil.
what I tell you. Every Monday I'm like, what are you going to say to me today, you little lying jerk? I know what I did yesterday.
I'm talking to him.
Don't lie to
Let's
me.
bark. Let's bark it.
And you get on it and you're like, oh.
So look, we've been going a long time, and I hate to
No,
keep
and
bringing
I
us
wanna come
back
back to
because
Mary.
what I love,
Yeah.
first of all, you guys are amazing guests.
You're welcome.
Like,
Thanks.
I almost feel like too, like, and if you agree in the
We're not
audience,
done.
say something like whatever, because I feel like we almost need to do like a regular show with you two.
Oh, wow.
Because what I
So
would
much
love
on
to
the
do is, I feel like we need to give little chunks of a pathway. Like we really haven't even gone in deeply into what exactly Dale's process was. And I feel like there's people out there, if they've made it this far, who would be like, I really want to know.
Yeah.
And right now I don't feel like we can wrap it up in this episode, but would you guys be willing to maybe come back and do like like if we did
He
something.
lives across the street.
Street.
I'm like,
But I
bring
feel
a
like we
sleeping bag.
should and have a
You just want me
conversation.
here every Monday at 4.
4:30.
But just have a conversation with the low country, because the low country, like the one of the things that we always talk about in this area, I feel like, and I don't know if you agree with, I feel like it's a mystical area in that there's something special about the land itself.
Oh yeah,
That's
spiritual.
healing.
It's spiritual.
It's spiritual.
It is.
And then it draws you, there's an invitation. I feel like there's just this portal of invitation saying, there's more. You can have more life, more health, more vibrance, more community, more everything. But you have to engage and do things different than you've done, and that there's guides here. There's people here that are willing to embrace you, willing to walk the journey with you, willing to guide you along the way. And I really want to come back and touch on that, because I want to talk about all of this, because we really never touched base.
Before we sign off, I do want to talk a little bit about Mary. So our big thing was inflammation with the weight loss. And there's so many quotes that I want to go into that we can't.
Yeah.
But with Mary, I just really wanted to give the audience just a little bit of what we did. So when we come in, which I think is fascinating, you have, what would you call it?
AL scanner.
So are
quantum.
you still doing the hand, or are you doing the ear?
Well, it's interestingly enough, I am 100% virtual now.
Okay.
So I actually still can use this. This is an energy testing machine.
It's all energy.
And what's crazy is that I do it now over the phone.
Wow. So
And
the
so it picks
vibration
up
of your
on
voice.
the voice.
Okay.
And then it's a voice analysis, but it also connects through the energy itself, the phone to whatever they're using that device. So they have a certain
Oh, Mary, you just opened up a whole.
Let her
so without the scanner, I can't get the blood panel reading that I usually get, but I can get possible parasites, possible metals, and then they always say, should see a chiropractor, and it always says,
Program was written by a chiropractor.
here's the emotional, physical, and you'd be surprised. It really wasn't, but it was very, very interesting. And I've had the younger generation who I do that with says, one told me, she said, and I've only heard this with blood. She said, Dr. Mary, you were thinking about possibly getting rid of that, because I do blood panels now, right? I do blood panels. I run all the numbers. We do metabolic testing. And she was like, you can't not do the quantum. She said, because energy doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And I said, how do they even know that? I know blood panels, like the blood doesn't lie. The truth is in the blood, but it's static.
They can lie.
Whereas energy, absolutely.
Well, and they actually, in the quantum physics, I've heard through Greg Braden and stuff, and there's a whole bunch of, there's Gaia Joe Dispenza. They talk about how, like, literally they can measure, it's like your energy field expands outside your body, and they can read it, and they can literally see what's not working and what is.
And I've sat in on his conference when he came to LifeU back. He's an alum, Life University, but he actually talked about gene expression and how what you focus on is what you become.
Manifest.
Yeah.
Because, and the manifestation is physical, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a protein that's produced out of your thoughts.
Yeah.
So that's how our proteins are produced.
Joe healed himself because of that.
Well, let me tell you. What?
Joe Dispenza.
Oh, just
He was a triathlete that was hit by a truck.
when he was hit.
Yeah.
But he
and they, wanted to do all these surgeries. Like, nope,
They
Right.
said he was never going to walk again.
never going to walk again. And it was his power of thought.
Yeah.
that
And even he was in his
own
own way in the beginning because he wasn't getting as well. And he
Right.
was the one that's like, I got to get on my own way.
Focus.
Because I'm focusing on why is it me?
Right.
And instead, he's like, I'm healing.
Right.
Instead of why did this happen to me? I've ruined my life. And so he started manifesting that repair.
Right.
And what do you know?
It's just like the
Repair.
Bible says. Like
Yep.
if you focus on what you focus on, you become.
Yep.
So think on good things, right? And so, but if you think that negatively, you cannot express anything but that.
And that
negative.
is going, hold on, pause
Yeah.
that. Because
Wow.
that is going to be our next thing
Golly,
that
we
talk
could just
about.
go.
Because that's so powerful. Okay.
Thank you.
But what I just want to come back to what you do, Mary, because obviously you use the frequency of the body and you read, a report is printed out.
Right.
And you can see, which I've been fascinated, all the major organs, what's going on.
Yes.
You see, obviously, down to the emotional. And I will tell you, the first time I did the report and the emotional things came up, I was like, nah, how did it know that? Nah. And I walked away and I was like, holy crap, I didn't even know I was feeling those things. And you know what? You're right. Hands up. I mean, it was just so precise. So
Exactly.
based off of that, that's how you're helping people.
Right.
Prescribing, recommending
what they need. So when people come in, if
Very
they're
good.
interested, they make an
You're learning,
appointment.
Dale.
And they make a free appointment, and we do a discovery if we think we're a good match. Because if people are not willing to change, it's no point in wasting their
Same with
money, my time.
Dr. Bradley's the same way.
Exactly. We come in and they sit. The first thing we do is the testing. I go with their history. They give me 3 pages of history.
Yeah.
And then they do a metabolic test, a quiz. Then I take that and I couple it with that quantum assessment. And so once I do that, it shows me, it paints a picture. Right,
And
I've been
it's
doing
so
it so long,
accurate.
I could see that person, and I said, okay, you think it's a gut issue, you have problems here, you got symptoms, but it's because you haven't dealt with releasing this grievance in your life. Who have you lost in the last 5-10 years that you just really, oh my goodness, my dad died just 2 years ago, and I just keep dwelling on. And when we deal with that, I said, okay, now what are you willing to do? I have connections to get them connected. I have a gentleman who we've done everything for him, prostate cancer. I told him when he sat down with me, because he and his wife didn't lose one, but they lost 2 children. And it shows up in his test every time. I said, when are you going to be ready to do the work? Well, we've already dealt with that. We put it behind us. I said, you're not going to go past this until you do. He's on the same, I'm treating him or working with him the same way I'm working with another gentleman, same disease or dis-ease. And the other gentleman surpasses him. He gets a really low PSA score and he's excited. He's celebrating Dr. Mary. Has gone up.
Because he dealt with
Because he
that
didn't
issue.
do the work. And I told him, he said, Dr. Mary, what am I doing wrong? I've been working for a whole year. I said, you wasn't willing to do the work. I said, now he's saying, I'm willing to do the work. And I'm going to send him to a chiropractor that does NET, right? That emotional, what is it? Neuro-emotional technique. Right, to help them to release that. But my point is, I start there, I figure out what's the root, and then I build a protocol
Based
for
on
them
that.
to go through. And it's going to be dealing with the mind, the emotion, the spiritual, and the physical.
That's why it's holistic.
It's holistic.
That's
so
why it's
enzymes,
With an H, not a W.
peptides, homeopathics, it's just whatever that person needs.
And then what I think was really amazing, you started us personally off of the detox. Okay, so you're cleansing out the body, making it get back to the baseline it should be. And then based on where we were at, every time we came in, you would read the energy. Where's your body now? All right, Dale, you need this for your hormones. Your thyroid's a little slow. So you would tweak it and David would be completely different. And then come back in 3 months, done that protocol, let's see where your body's at again, you know? So it's a real, I love how it's a real now picture of where I'm at, you know, and it's just this progression.
And space out as improve. And so, and then the nice thing as parents, once I was able to see the young men, the boys, right?
Yep.
Then all I had to do was talk to you about them.
Yeah.
And we could tweak their homeopathy
protocols.
because there's no side effects. I didn't worry about it. They give it to the kids and boom, you know, we can, you know, left or right. Okay, And so that's why this works well, even virtually, because people, it's really an education.
Yeah, well,
that
that's
you're
it. You've got to
receiving.
start, right? With the
I'm
education.
busier
part.
virtually than I was in brick and mortar.
William.
But I got patience all over
But I
the
feel like
place.
that's
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah, it is.
That's why these things matter. You know, this sort of platform matters. I do realize something though that I do need to confess. I got to let go of something. It's the Georgia Buckeye game a couple years ago.
Oh my
I
gosh,
just-
we've won a national
You confessing that to
championship.
Dr. Brad, not me.
I'm still not over
Are
it.
you a Georgia
It just
guy?
hit me.
Okay, Buckeye guy.
That hit on Marvin Harrison in the end zone. I never released him from
Oh my
it.
God, that's horrible.
Sorry
I'm
about that.
Kentucky.
Okay. Oh my
All right.
gosh.
We'll beat you
I'm
in basketball.
sorry.
We
I'm
won
sorry.
a national
I know we did win it,
championship.
but
You
we
can
should have
let
had
it go.
two.
I'm
They
not against
robbed
sports,
us.
Doctor.
Sorry.
Look, I don't know who
So
they
listen,
talking about.
all right, it's so funny. We didn't get to any of our questions.
But we had a great discussion.
Yeah, we did. No, it was fantastic. You guys are amazing guests, and I thank you so much. And I just would say to the audience, if you made it this far, if this resonated with you personally, or if you think of somebody that could really use this, share this with them and get it out there. And if you think that you'd want to find out more and dive deeper, even before we do another episode, I encourage you to reach out to Dr. Mary, Dr. Bradley. We have personally used them in our lives. They've changed our lives, and we are better for it. And we're going to put down their information in the description below, but and also on the screen here. But just reach out to them, and whatever you do, get whole, get healthy, and pursue the journey. And if there's anything you'd want to say, close out the show with that.
Oh, the number one thing is we forgot what feeling good is,
Yes, amen.
right? And it happens so slow, but I promise you get it back.
Yeah. And then you don't want to go back.
No, once you got
Never.
it,
Yeah.
once you got it back,
Yeah.
then
you
don't let it go.
Dr. Mary, why don't you?
Drink clean water, eat real food, get outside and get vitamin D every day, get great rest, and over 7 hours is usually okay. And then release and let go. And let God, if you will.
There you go. I knew that was coming.
Amen.
I knew that was in
Give
there.
it to him and don't worry about it. Let's just
Amen.
party, man.
That's how I live my life.
Come on now.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Well, thank you for
Thank you, guys.
watching the show today,
Oh,
and we look forward to the next episode with you. You guys be well.
Please like and subscribe.
Yes.
Hair and makeup for this episode brought to you by Salon Celeste, where style meets sophistication.
Let Victoria Gonzalez
Create a confident, radiant look with an expert cut, stunning color, or the perfect blowout. Book your appointment today.
Don't forget to follow, like, share, and subscribe to Real Talk Hilton Head and leave us a review to help others discover the Low Country lifestyle.